are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jess Bocci. I am the Director of Marketing at AIM, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. You are muted upon entry. If you're not muted, please make sure that you're muted just so we can eliminate any kind of background noise during the presentation. At the end, we're going to open it up to questions. So if you guys have any questions at that time, you can unmute yourselves. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So this webinar is going to be focused on driver recruiting and retention, which is a very hot topic for many companies, including our own, as the driver shortage worsens. We'll also be reviewing our integrated logistics division, which actually relieves companies of the burden of hiring and retaining their own drivers. So I'd like to just take a really quick moment and tell you a little bit about AIM and the purpose of those webinars for those of you who aren't familiar with us. AIM is a company that offers full service leasing, commercial rentals, maintenance programs, and as we're briefly going to touch on today, our dedicated contract carriage division, which is AIM Integrated Logistics. So this webinar is one in a series of monthly webinars that AIM offers, and these webinars are for our customers and any member of the business community, particularly those that are function in the transportation division of your company. And really, as our name indicates, AIM Transportation Solutions, our aim is to inform people and give people solutions for the problems that they're having in the transportation realm of their business. And one of the solutions we can provide is information. So we have some of the brightest and most innovative members of the transportation community employed at AIM. So we really want to share our information resources with you guys. So you're about to learn about the AIM way of recruiting and retaining drivers today. We're very excited. We have Mr. Tom Rita with us. He is our Senior Vice President of AIM Integrated Logistics. And then we have Eleanor Arnold, who is our Director of Recruiting. Eleanor has over 25 years of experience with recruiting and retention, and she manages AIM's recruiting department, which we're very robust in our hiring and retaining drivers in our efforts to do that. So Tom and Eleanor, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. And Tom, when you are ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jess, for the kind introduction, and thank everyone out there for taking some time out of their busy schedules and joining us today. As Jess spoke to, we're going to talk about the driver shortage that is impacting all of us in the industry, whether you're a shipper, carrier, or a customer. We felt the impacts of the driver shortage. My section that I'm going to speak of is really 4 points. The first one being why the shortage of drivers. And then we're going to drill down to some specific industry challenges and statistics. Once we understand those, then we're going to talk a little bit about attracting and retaining the best drivers in the industry, and then talk to the AIM integrated difference. So I'm going to start real quick with what the experts are saying. For once, they all agree, regardless of what news station you watch. ATA, Morgan Stanley, Wall Street Journal, they're all saying the same thing. There is a shortage of drivers. And that shortage is it's not only a shortage, but we're also faced with a quality issue, right? So in order to become a professional driver in 2019, not only do you have to have a clean MBR, a clean CSA, clean PSP report, you got to have the experience, pass a background check, drug test, and maybe even a physical abilities test before you can get behind the wheel of a tractor trailer. Again, there's not only a quantity issue, but a quality issue. As far as the quantity goes, as most of you are aware, it's a second career for most. It's not very glamorous. There's stigma, and there's an overall shortage of skilled labor, not just with the transportation industry, but across the board. We've got an aging population. That's probably our biggest hurdle that we're working towards overcoming. The average age of the U.S. worker is right at 42 years old or young. In the driver workforce, all drivers, that average is about 46. 4 years. What's even more insightful was the fact that those companies that operate private fleets, the average age of their drivers are around 57. So you see that gap widen. The demographics are another challenge we face as an industry. It remains a male-dominated industry. You have to be 21 years or older with experience to apply. You also have the lifestyle, unpredictable schedules, sleeping in the truck, away from home, living on fast food. Who wouldn't sign up? Job alternatives. Talk about that for a minute. There's a shortage of skilled labor out there, and there's a lot other jobs out there that require a lot less responsibility and are a lot less regulated. The other thing we've got to combat is the regulations. Even though they're in our best increase, it's decreased the pool of drivers even more so that are available to us. 30 years ago or less, even 20 years, being a professional driver was a form of independence, right? So some of the rules and regulations that the government and insurance companies have put on the industry, for better or worse, have kind of decreased some of that independence the drivers have, and maybe a reason as to why they selected to be drivers in the first place. The graph that you see here is an insert from the ATA's driver shortage analysis that they did in July of 2019. They're estimating right now we're around 61,000 drivers short. That number is expected to grow up to 160,000 in the next 10 years. Top two reasons for why they suspect a driver shortage is, one, you've got retirements that we'll talk more in a bit about. And the second one is just general GDP growth, right? As we produce and use more goods, we're going to need more drivers to deliver them. So those two are the number one and two reasons as to forecasting the driver shortage.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about some statistics and challenges. First, they measure the truckload driver turnover. So the truckload driver turnover may or may not compare to your business. Generally, those are the entry-level jobs, over the road for a couple weeks at a time sometimes, kind of where everyone gets their start. Their turnover averages between 73 and 88%. Obviously, the smaller the carrier, the lower the turnover. Those companies actually do a better job creating that intimate feeling with their drivers and doing a slightly better job retaining them. But it's still a large number. Turnover cost is real. Direct cost alone, just to hire a driver, between the advertising, the screening, the training, so on and so forth, you're looking between $8,000 and $10,000, right? And that includes a sign-on bonus. If you added the indirect cost of the turnover for having the truck sit or outsourcing to common carriers, that number is probably even larger. So the turnover expense is real. We talked on the previous slide a little bit about the aging workforce and the retirements of the baby boomers being, one of our biggest challenges. We need a total of 55,000 drivers a year just to keep up with the drivers that are retiring every year. So that's a big number. Who are going to fill those seats of the baby boomers? Next up is the demographics, right? Females account for 47% of the workforce, but only 6.5% of the professional drivers on the road. So as an industry, we need to do a better job marketing to and hiring and getting females into the industry and diversifying our workforce. Age is another opportunity that we have. There is some pending legislation that's being reviewed. It's called DRIVE, the Developing Responsible Individuals for a Vibrant Economy. Senate Bill 569, House Bill 1374. Was last reviewed in February. If that were to pass, there would be some regulations and some additional training and constraints and whatnot to get it to pass. But it's being reviewed and it was sent to council in February. Wait to hear. But that could open the doors to another demographic as well. Overall, there's probably few people on this call that are sending their kids to a trade school once they're done out of high school, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent, we are programmed to continue educating ourselves, and that education means going to college, whether you agree or disagree, that that's the right thing to do. There are plenty of skilled labor positions out there that we need to fill. And I think in the coming years, you're going to see some large wage growth in those sectors as we try to attract more individuals into the different trades, truck driving being one of them. And then the regulations, right? The government and insurance. We've got driving records we've got to look at, backgrounds, DOT approved doctors, CSAs, ELDs, sleep apnea. There's a lot more risk and exposure to shippers, carriers alike to do the proper due diligence to make sure they hire the right folks when they give them the keys to the truck. And the shippers are selecting the right carriers as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about how do you attract and retain the career professionals, right? And I'll start off by saying that transportation or trucking has nothing to do with trucks, trailers, or even freight. It has everything to do with people, right? So morally and financially, you have to make sure that the person you give the keys to your truck is the right person. It's just having no driver is better than having the wrong driver. So it's very important to be selective in making sure that you hire the right folks on the front end. You know, transparent job descriptions are critical, right? Drivers aren't buying crazy, right? They don't expect the perfect job. They want to hear the bad and ugly early, right? And be transparent with them about what is great about the job and what is horrible about the job, just the same. Make sure they know what they can expect from you as a company, and make sure that they understand what you expect from them as an employee. Start that relationship off right. Earnings and benefits. Saving money on driver wages is honestly a fool's errand. You got to make sure that you got the right pay for the right job. If not, you'll continue to churn drivers, right? You'll end up costing yourself more in turnover and in safety by saving a couple $1,000s on the wage. So make sure you know what the market is and you're priced accordingly. Employer image, becoming that employer of choice, that's important. Drivers have the internet, they have friends, so they read and they talk and they do research on companies, because they're one of the few industries that at any point in their careers they could pick up their tablet or phone and look for a job and have 50 options to choose from. And they're going to do research, and they're going to know someone that works there, and they're going to ask, what's so good about this company? Why do you work there, right? And they're going to want to know, right? So again, being transparent with your drivers, talking to them, making sure that they feel as though they're part of the team and that they are a critical part to the team success is I can't stress enough. When you go and set up a job, or you're hiring for a job, make sure the job is realistic, right? No one really looks for that 70-hour, 6-day-a-week job anymore. So you got to get creative with your solution and your driving jobs. Be realistic, right? Just because they can log 70 hours a week doesn't mean that they want to every week, right? So look at the job and come up with a balance that allows you to maintain the productivity of the resources and the deliveries and the drivers and the earnings, but also it balances their life, right? And you could do that with adding remote domiciles, altered work weeks, scheduling, so on and so forth. But there's a lot of opportunities there when you're looking at your jobs and your transportation network on how you could build the best mousetrap, as I would call it, that is sustainable for the future. Next up is the equipment. Drivers want clean, reliable, well-maintained equipment. It's not too much to ask, right? If we care, they care. So it's important that we make sure we give them vehicles that keep them on the road, because that's how they generally make their earnings, is by moving, not by sitting. Career progression. This is important as well. when you set out a career development path for any employee, especially a driver, they know that there's life beyond just driving if they so desire, right? At AIM, some of our natural progression is that we would hire a student driver and we train them. And then that student driver becomes a trainer. And then that trainer becomes a safety manager. And that safety manager then becomes an operator, and so on and so forth as they work their way through the organization and create real value and buy into the organization. So it's important that they know that there's opportunities for them to explore and that we help them achieve those opportunities. And then probably all those things combined, you create that driver-centric culture, one that's winning, right? And one thing that I don't know a lot of shippers realize is that the drivers delivering the product are in touch and see your customers probably more so than anyone else within the organization. So again, creating that organization that supports those that are doing the jobs is invaluable. So that said, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about AIM Integrated and some of our core capabilities and what it is that we do. As you can see from the top line there, our mission statement is really to understand your business and come up with a customized solution and leverage our technology to provide great service, right? And our core capabilities there are listed on the right. As you can see, dedicated contract carriage, which is basically our private fleet offering without the risk. You've got our TMS and carrier management solutions, brokerage, warehousing, yard management, and consulting. Overall, we've got 40 customers and 500 happy delivery professionals working with us. This is our footprint. Yellow is AIM Integrated. Red is we have a maintenance facility there and a shop. Blue is our national lease affiliates that we're part of. So as you can see, we've got a pretty intense footprint. Unless you're in Utah, then you're out of luck, unfortunately. But pretty much everywhere else, we're where you are. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the AIM Integrated value and what's important to us and what we look for in customers and what customers look for when they hire us, right? And really, first and foremost, is safety. That's paramount to the organization, and it starts with hiring that right person, making sure we hire good people that come to work safe and return home safely, and providing them with technology that enhances the safety of the vehicle and then the driver's experience, and then just continually support them through training and education so that they continue to do great things. We are family owned and operated. 4th generation. AIM is the largest privately held leasing company in America, which is outstanding. We specialize in servicing customers with the hard deliveries, right? So if it's easy, anyone can do it. So if it's multi-stop, hand unload, continuous moves, so on and so forth. If it's dynamic and it's something that cannot be commoditized, then we really show our value in those scenarios. The purpose of this call really was to talk about hiring that career professional, and that's really what we do on behalf of our customers. Is we understand the jobs and we hire professionals for that specific job, so that we know and understand the expectations. They understand what we're looking for. They know what to expect from us, the customer, and that buy-in. And those drivers are an extension of your business. Our information technology our information technology department is done in-house. We've got proven technology that works. It's customizable, it's flexible, and we can give you as much visibility and data as you'd like to see. All of our operations are backed by our AIM full service leased equipment. It's great that we have AIM tractors and AIM shops and AIM maintenance. We handle our own. We don't outsource anything, so we're confident that it's done right the first time. In addition to our road rescue department that works on the maintenance and leasing side, we also have a 24/7 central operations department that's based here in Girard at the corporate support center. And those folks are there to answer calls 24/7, 365 days a year, supporting our drivers however needed with whatever may come up during off hours. So we've got a couple things that we offer, and one obviously is service. The other thing is continuous improvement. We as a partner in success have to be innovative and come to you with new ideas and opportunities and talk through them and show you how we can get more efficient, right? Or improve service or whatever the case may be. So that's very important that once we get a customer and a client, that we continue to work that relationship and find opportunities for us to improve together. Because again, we're partners in success when we in this agreement. And probably the last and certainly not least, the most underrated value we have is the decreased risk that we provide, right? So we are experts in transportation, all things, including logistics. You allow us to do what we do well, and you focus on what you do well. And that's your core competency. Most private fleets are running a fleet out of necessity, not because they want to, right? With the AIM integrated solution, you maintain the control of the private fleet with predictable cost, without risk, and focus on your core competency. So that's something that I think is undervalued, or maybe not seen enough, is that you could focus on what you do best and let us worry about the hiring drivers and retaining them and keeping them delivering. So that's my portion of the webinar today. And I look forward to any questions at the end after Eleanor.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was very informative. That was some great information about how to recruit and retain drivers, and also some very good information about AIM. So thank you for that. I hope everyone got some good insight from Tom's presentation. So Tom, if you just want to hit stop share, so then Eleanor can, on your Zoom app. Yeah, there you go. So just give us 1 second, please, while Mrs. Eleanor Arnold gets her presentation up. As I said earlier, Eleanor has over 25 years of experience when it comes to recruiting. So she really is an absolute expert in this field, and she's manages our entire recruiting department, which is very large, and oversees all those efforts. So Eleanor, when you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jess. Thank you, Tom. Welcome, everyone. As Jess mentioned, my name is Eleanor Arnold, and I'm the Director of Recruiting at AIM. So I want to just kind of touch on the agenda a little bit. 4 items that we'll talk about. Recruiting the AIM driver, our student program, and industry turnover by tenure, which affects us all. And last but definitely not least, retention. It works towards AIM becoming the employer of choice. So I'll outline the recruiting process. We've been successful in dropping our driver openings from 100 driver needs to 10 in 17 months. And I'll also talk about the skill development program. When I talked about the student program, it's something that we put together quite a long time ago, and we'll talk about the success. What we're doing is we're working to keep the AIM driver in the seat. So if we talk about advertising and targeted advertising, we all know it's a necessary evil. And I say that because there isn't anybody that doesn't deal with transportation and advertising that doesn't know that advertising costs are a major portion of our hiring spend. Now obviously drug screens, physicals, background checks add up, but the dollars that we allot for advertising far exceeds these other costs. And that is significant too. On an average here at AIM, we spend anywhere from $15,000 to $45,000 a month advertising for open positions. It just depends how many we have with each new account. And each of our targeted job descriptions is basically designed to give the driver the first reason to reach out to an AIM recruiter, either through applying online or with a phone call. So we tried something new this year. Earlier in the year, we did some radio advertising. So I had mixed feelings about it, but I think you can all agree we have to continuously try new things in order to see what's working. And one of our presidents, Scott Fleming, he's seen in the top right-hand corner, he recorded an ad with iHeartRadio, and it was played in a few of our really difficult markets, the markets where we struggle to find good drivers. This ad did net us 2 drivers, but it additionally brought in over 20 new drivers to our pipeline. And it's something I learned many years ago when I began my professional career in recruiting. You're only as good as your pipeline. So this also applies to the driver market. Those that believe you can fill all of your open positions by placing ads on a job board will be disappointed. It just doesn't work that way. So in today's market, you really need to think outside of the box to attract new talent. We have multiple processes in place that allow us to build a stellar pipeline of experienced driver candidates who want to work for AIM. So I like to call this process #NoReactiveRecruiters. #NoReactiveRecruiting. What I was going to say is my recruiters can talk about this quite a bit, because when you're reactive recruiting, you're jumping as fast as you can through a hoop to find the best candidate for the open position as quick as you can. Basically meaning we're not just recruiting when we have that open need, but we prepare for when we do have the open need. So if we talk about the AIM recruiter, they make an average of 75 calls per day. And any of those calls are to drivers who may not be actively looking for a new opportunity. These would be drivers whose resume isn't on a job board and who are not unhappy per se at their current employer. So AIM recruiters are trained to think outside the box, to discover what it would take for this driver to make a move. Many times it's money, but more times than not, it's about way more. So perhaps it is better benefits or a better cultural fit. So we dig deep before the driver actively looks, and then that gives us the opportunity to plan for future openings. So this year we held a few contests to attract new drivers to AIM. The first contest we called the Summer Vacation Contest. This was where the winner would receive a paid week of vacation and a travel gift card. So I'm happy to report that the winner of the contest referred a driver who we hired for the same account. The response from our contests deliver more than just hires. It adds what I consider free candidates to our pipelines. Ones we knew nothing about, we didn't pay advertising for, but come into our pipeline that we have basically from referrals. Contests we are seeing, it really gets our employees to think about who they know. The added incentive of the referral contest are the fact that we do pay for referrals as well. So, drivers get these bonuses anytime when they refer a driver we hire, but it's especially nice when it's combined with another contest. And that's quite a few dollars for the winner. And this year's winner is pictured in the left picture up there behind the truck. He's the far left gentleman, and he's taking his family on a vacation trip to Disney next month. And so, which is really exciting for us. The gentleman to the far right, the red, is actually the person he referred, and now they're both on the same team driving. So when we do something like these contests and the winners are really excited about this opportunity, and this particular driver actually sent in 4 referrals. So he obviously is an ambassador for AIM. So let's talk a little bit about my recruiters. That's them at the bottom of the screen. The only person missing is my recruiting manager, Alex. But the 4 recruiters that you see at the bottom are the ones that work day to day on helping to fill our driver needs. So some people might disagree with this, but I believe the best recruiters are great salespeople. I've lived by this philosophy for as long as I've been managing recruiters, and I'm happy to say that AIM management also believes this to be true. So we do sales assessments prior to hiring recruiters, and we have ongoing recruiting training. So we've built this team of recruiters who excel because they're commissioned sales professionals. the more they deliver and retain, the better they're compensated. And we know it works. So our skill development program is what I'll talk a little bit about now. Give me 1 second. We partner with 26 schools in order to recruit the top CDL graduates. We have strict guidelines regarding attendance, skills, and previous experience. We look at what jobs they were doing before. Is it applicable? Is it something that's going to allow them to be a great driver? So this type of criteria that we have in place has proven to be invaluable in graduating the best drivers. Our 12-week program allows a new driver to become acclimated to our accounts and our strong attention to safety. Recruiting upcoming graduates with a committed weekly pay rate is something else that we believe is very important. It takes the guesswork out from the driver who's wondering what they're going to be paid. So we've heard from many of them where they tell us they've been promised a certain amount, but then they don't deliver. So when the first paycheck arrives, this is really the most important time for our drivers. They see that what we said is what they make. This is a prime reason that many of our great referrals come from our previous students, and they refer past classmates. So a little bit about the team, learning from the experts. With over 10 years of experience and some with over 30 years of experience, our safety managers get to know the new driver from the road test throughout their entire career at AIM. Our skill development and training program is managed and run by the safety department, and it provides really a one-on-one mentoring throughout their tenure. So this training allows our new drivers to train on the accounts they will be driving for once they graduate from our program. So I'm going to talk about partnering with the schools for just a minute. So we've worked really hard to build strong relationships with schools in multiple regions, from providing the tractors and trailers for training purposes, to assisting with mock interviews, which is what I go and do before students graduate, and sitting on their boards. We get the importance of working with top schools so that we can meet and hire the top drivers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about industry turnover by tenure. I know this is a sore subject with a lot of you. The graph you see reported by Staymetrics really shows how long drivers stay with their employers. Not a great thing when we look at this table from 2018, but I'm happy to report that our numbers have changed. They've increased overall by an average of 37%. And with 30 of that being in the first 120 days. So you probably ask me, what did we do to improve these percentages? Well, commitment. I think it speaks volume. We're truly a true family-run company where atmosphere, support, communication, and respect for each other is really at the forefront of every division of AIM. We bring on clients who fit our culture. It has to be a win-win. So that the positions we provide for our drivers are what they look for in a career, not just a job. So with benefits being a primary concern for our drivers, I'm happy to report that the cost and coverage of the benefits package we provide many times is the deciding factor for a driver to join AIM. So our benefit coverage and cost are in the top 5% of companies at our size. That poll was also done by Staymetrics. AIM recruiters are trained to be benefits experts, so they can accurately compare the driver's current plan to ours. So they can actually see the cost saving, what's back in their pocket by joining AIM. So retention, really at the forefront of our minds all the time. You know, there's cost associated with bringing on a driver, so we have to retain them. Retention's everyone's responsibility. And at AIM, it starts with the recruiters. The recruiter's job doesn't stop with the hire because they're an integral part of retaining the driver. So my recruiters have a responsibility to follow a very, very strict retention plan. With scheduled correspondence that is set in stone, every contact with the driver from day one has been carefully planned out, you know, based on statistics that we've seen. We understand that turnover is critical within the first 90 days. So we're on top of any potential issue that could cause a driver to become unhappy or disappointed and potentially take a call from another recruiter. So AIM recruiters are the first to get a question about day one, about payroll, about benefits, and about their schedule. So many times they're the first to hear about issues. So we are committed to a 1-hour turnaround on any issue or question. If it's not something where we can provide a direct answer, we conference in the party who can help. It might be payroll or the benefits department, it could be HR, it could be the operations manager. We can only commit to this promise to the drivers with a full cooperation of all divisions of AIM. As recruiting director, I speak with every single driver that we hire at AIM. I'm actually responsible for the week 4 retention call, where I talk with our drivers and confirm that they're happy they made the choice to come to AIM. I use that time to also thank them for joining the AIM family and basically just to ask how they're doing. It's a great way for me to get to know each driver, and the information that I get back from them is so valuable. This commitment to our drivers goes really a long way. I know this for a fact as we see it in our referrals. So I had the opportunity to hear firsthand how we're doing at one of the driver appreciation picnics we held during Driver Appreciation Week. The picture above actually shows many of our drivers from the Girard area who joined us for a family picnic. So every driver at AIM is appreciated, and they were all included in a chance to win an ATV, which you'll see on the next slide. But we really take the time from the presidents to everyone in the organization that supports a driver. They were there to meet them, to talk to them, to get to know them. So finally, I want to show this picture in the middle. This is Suzette Newman. Suzette's a 5-year AIM driver, and she was the winner of the quad this year. So we gave away a quad. All the drivers were eligible. Many other drivers and their families that came to the picnic, they won prizes and enjoyed the picnic while they got to know AIM employees and their fellow drivers. It was really a great time for everyone. And so they're all excited, obviously, about next year. So this really concludes my presentation, and I want to thank you all for taking time from your day to participate in the webinar, and I'll send it back to Jess in case there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. That was fantastic. Eleanor and Tom both. We're going to go ahead now and open up the floor to questions that you guys have for Eleanor or Tom. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question verbally, or you can type it right into the chat function, whichever you feel more comfortable with. Okay, so I got one question here for Tom through the chat function. It says, Tom, how is AIM Integrated different from other companies offering to outsource dedicated contract carriage? Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for submitting it. So I would start by our initial due diligence. So anytime we talk to a client, existing or new, we want to do a deep dive of their operation and understand all the nuances and particulars. And then just brainstorm with the client, share best practices, ideas, be fully transparent on what it is we envision a solution to be, right? Including and up to the earnings that we're going to pay the employees. There's no sacred cows. We want to partner with companies that understand the value and align with us and sharing the same mission. And at that point, if we don't see the value, we share that as well. So just as important as recognizing value is recognizing if we can't provide value and being transparent about that out of respect of your time and your business. So I think that's number one, or probably number two. Number one is really the flexibility. We're a privately held, 4th generation family owned company, and our strength is our ability to meet your ever-changing business needs, right, without the bureaucracy that some other larger organizations may have. So thank you.
That was very well put, Tom. We got another question here from Sean Richard. He asked, how many drivers are you hiring per year?
Eleanor, you want to take that one? I don't want to.
No problem. We hire over 200 drivers per year based on the new accounts that we acquire.
Perfect. I have another one here for Eleanor. This is, what is the single best media channel for advertising for driver recruiting in your opinion?
This is a pretty easy one. It's definitely social media. If we don't get with the times, we're going to be left in the dust. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We at AIM have a social strategy in place that maps to our overall strategic plan. And we have SMART goals set per platform.
Perfect. Rex A asked, would you send a copy of the slides? We're going to send a video link to the presentation following the meeting. And that'll have Tom, Eleanor, and my contact information in it. So everyone will have access to the meeting. And you can feel free to, if you want to review it again yourself or share it with anyone in your organization. We encourage you to do that. Any other questions for Tom or Eleanor? Oh, question for Tom. I'm sorry. Oh, we had got a couple questions there real quick. You talked about tractor trailers and straight trucks. Do you have multi-stop customers?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have customers that have both tractor trailer and straight truck drivers. And yeah, multi-stop is definitely in our wheelhouse.
Okay. Another question from T Banks. What is your average cost per hire, advertising cost? And I don't know if
I think that's a good one. I mean, I'm not comfortable giving that number right at this moment, but we're looking at it to be anywhere from 900 to 1100, and that would be overall cost. When I say I'm not ready to give that, I'm just finalizing my numbers, and I want it to be actually accurate. That's what we found.
Okay.
Definite improvement from where we were last year.
Awesome. Oh, Eleanor, I have another one for you. Have you ever found billboards as a good recruiting tool?
I think in the past, actually before I came to AIM, billboards were something that they did, and they had a lot of success with it. Probably more so with the mechanics, surprisingly, than the drivers. But over the past year, everything that we have done research on is just showing it's not as effective as social media. It's more cost effective to do, social media, advertising for one. So we've completely stayed away from billboards, I think, since 2017.
Good answer. All right. Does anyone have any more questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Here's another Tom question. Tom, do you work with refrigerated equipment?
Yes, we do. Yep.
Great. All right. Any other questions for Eleanor or Tom? Okay. So I will be sending out, as I mentioned, a link to the video of this presentation that Eleanor and Tom did today, as well as the question and answer segment. It'll have Tom's contact information, Eleanor's contact information, and my own. You guys can reach out to us at any time. We really appreciate your participation today. I just kind of want to reiterate that the cost of hiring and maintaining drivers is going to continue to increase. So integrated really is a great solution for companies, and a lot of companies that are probably in your industries or similar to you are either already utilizing something like us or shopping for it. So give us a shout. We can give you some free information at the very least about what your options are as far as dedicated contract carriage is concerned. And we're always happy to share with what we're doing. We have great people like Eleanor and Tom who are doing it right. So we want to make sure that we're making those resources available to you guys.
So Jessica, one other question pop up. Did you see
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry. How do you pull over the road drivers?
So I guess we need a little bit of elaboration on that. I'm taking it because of my department. how do we poach them? I'm not sure if that's the question, but I think I'm going to answer it like it is, and they can type if it's something different. So AIM traditionally does not have over-the-road per se positions. We have regional positions, and obviously the transfer from completely over the road out 14 weeks at a time to a regional position that we have out 3 to 4 nights a week at the most, that's definitely a lot easier. We have a few accounts where we've been able to fill these positions with over-the-road drivers, getting them off the road, and bringing them into a company where they do get more home time, where we respect their time with their families. So if the question was for Tom and meant something else, well, I just did a sales pitch for my recruiting team.
Good answer. I mean, it comes down to we have better jobs with better pay, and we're able to offer them a better opportunity.
Absolutely. I had another one come across for Tom. How have you found the anti-collision equipment works on the tractors and trailers?
It's good. It's all very positive stuff. It doesn't teach the driver how to drive safer, but it definitely allows him more time to react. I'm not I'm not sponsored by any one company, but I will tell you the Bendix Wingman system is very impressive. It allows you to stop sooner, lane departure, warning devices, all that stuff. It's definitely a well worth investment.
Perfect. Oh, for Tom, what do you look at what do you do to look at maximizing fuel mile per gallon?
So maximizing the miles per gallon, get a couple opportunities. One, make sure you spec the truck right. Automatic transmissions are big for fuel economy, as are APUs. I believe, and I've done some research on this and some analysis, that if you lay over about 3 times a week, the APU will pay for itself over the term of the truck without any issues. The other thing you could do is govern the trucks at a lower speed. That helps with the MPG efficiency as well.
All right, do we have any other questions? These are some really good questions. So again, give us a shout afterwards if you want to hear more about integrated. You want to, hit Eleanor up and see if she has any tips for your specific issue. Hopefully, what was included in the presentation, I think it was some really great information. You guys both did a really incredible job shining a light on how AIM does it. And depending on your company size, we might have a more challenging situation than you. We might not, but the cost is going to keep rising. You're going to be using more and more of your resources, and this is what we do. So, let us do the hard stuff with the drivers. And like Tom said, you can kind of focus on making sure your operation otherwise is running smoothly. So this video will be coming your way, and respond if you have any kind of questions. We're happy to help. Thank you again, and look for invitations to our upcoming webinars. We host these once a month. Tom, Eleanor, you guys rock. Great job. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Thank you, everyone.